It's
neighbor.
part of it.
Help your neighbor. I want to tell you what my Saturday or my Friday was like. My Friday, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I got an email. It just said, T-minus 2 hours. Pray. I knew what it meant. We have been involved with a group of the Underground Railroad on sex trafficking. And we are trying to shut down these sex traffickers. And former Navy SEALs and former special operations guys are going and trying to save these kids all over the world. And so I prayed and prayed and prayed. 2 hours go by. 3 hours go by. 3.5 hours go by, and I finally write. And I said, what's happening? I'm going to read this to you. And I've taken out some of the confidential information, but Glenn, I can't believe what happened. After over 2 weeks going undercover into the depths of hell to find these kids and negotiate a deal with their slave masters to liberate them, here I am back at the safe house with not one of them saved. Here's what happened. We did everything right. My team performed unbelievably. The agents who worked side by side with us performed unbelievably. They were at my side as we went into the dark layers of child sex trafficking. We had set up a party, a sex party, for 6 p.m. We had 5 bad guys snared on our line, and they had brought the kids, 15 of them, within 100 yards of the party that we had rented for this house. It was full of liquor, food, and everything to make the bad guys believe we were legit. 5:36, we get a call. The prosecuting attorney, who never should have had the case, didn't bother to open up the file until yesterday, said she was uncomfortable with the case and didn't like working on Fridays because that meant she would have to work all weekend long. She actually said those words. We pled with her along with the agents, telling her that the kids were 100 yards from our house and the monsters were ready to deliver the kids. But she wouldn't budge. May God have mercy on her soul, or not, whatever he decides. We had several other prosecutors look at the case file. All said there were no problems whatsoever. Even the prosecutor who denied us found no problems with us. Just come back later, she said. I feel a little rushed. This is what we're up against. We could not get her boss on the phone fast enough to act on her. The agents came back to the house. After fighting with her, with literal tears in their eyes, we hugged and we cried for the children. I felt like we just received news that children had died. 2 hours prior to this, I was looking into the eyes of one of these kids as her pimp described her to me and all the horrible sex acts that she would perform. I shook her hand. I smiled at her, hoping that the spirit would somehow whisper to her that we were actually going to save her. She's 13, the same age as my son. Just a baby. I could only bear it because I knew in 2 hours she would be safe in my arms. She grasped onto her 13-year-old companion and held her close. They were both so scared. Hours later, she and her fellow victims, 15 kids, sat in a van 100 yards away from their salvation. From us, we could see them, but we could do nothing. Then they left, still slaves. All of us, tough agents, fell to the ground and cried. And I'm not going to read the rest. It gets worse from there. Don't tell me that we're a group of haters. Don't tell me that we don't care about children. Don't tell me that we don't have a heart. Don't tell me that we have no place in your society. Don't tell me that you care more. You know, when it comes down to it, if you want to be honest, the real difference between us is you believe someone else should do it. And in the end, maybe you're right. I don't think you are, but maybe you're right. You believe that we should work and have our money taken from us, and through taxes and whatever, and then the governments should do things. We believe that we work hard, we earn our money, and then we put our money into things that we believe, and then we'll go take care of it. Instead of passing somebody on that mountain with their wagon and their wheel has been broken, instead of passing them and saying, someone will be by, we've already called for assistance, we believe we're supposed to stop and help. That's the only difference. You want to help in your way. We want to help in our way. Why do we have to hate each other for that? I contend we're not the ones that hate each other. We have people who are at the top of the ladder who, for their own purposes, have made us hate each other. And if we can just stop listening to those people, if we can just stop listening to those who want to control things because they get power in the end. I watched a movie this weekend that, there's a reason why Hollywood hated Frank Capra, the guy who did It's a Wonderful Life. He made another movie called Meet John Doe. I want you to watch that movie. It is, in many ways, almost our story of the 9/12 Project. I mean, it's amazing. Except the lead, Gary Cooper, is, he's a fraud. Or starts out, I guess, as a fraud. He just wants to eat. He's everything that they say that I was. He's just saying these things. But now, here we are with everything that's going on. And I watched that with my family last night. I'd never seen that movie. And I thought that is the answer. Unfortunately, that movie has almost happened exactly the same way. And people tried to take the Tea Party over in the 9/12 Project, and they still are, and they're still trying to kill it. If they can't get their hands on it, they will kill it. If the parties can't have it, they will kill it. And you look at people like Peter King, or you look at anybody who's slamming the Tea Party. This is the story. Go watch that movie. Meet John Doe. That's the answer. And when you come to the end, you will see what's happening. You'll see what has happened. And it is incumbent upon us to realize those fat cats, those Washington cronies, those people with power, those in the media, they mean nothing. They mean nothing. If we just reach out to each other and stop believing the lies we have been taught about each other. There's not a liberal within the sound of my voice that heard me read that letter and doesn't see the injustice. We're not that different. We've been made to believe we are. We're neighbors. We're friends. We're Americans. Sponsor this half hour is Goldline. How do you want to protect your family for whatever comes our way? Now, again, I go back to people making fun of people that think differently. It's amazing to me that, there's tenure for college professors because that tenure is there, so it will protect them, because if they happen to disagree with what society says, then they get to keep their job. But there is no tenure for you. I mean, there shouldn't be any tenure at universities either. There's no tenure. You have to roll the dice. Everything you do has consequence. But those people who think differently, they get tenure. But those same people at the top of the ladder that have their jobs protected by unions or by tenure, they will mock you for thinking differently. And what's funny is you're not thinking differently. You're just thinking differently for those who have lived in the last 40 years, that want to make all of the world's experience Boil it down to the last 40 years. I would say that you should look at the last 5,000 years because that's what really tells the story. I would suggest that you look at China, and China just said they're going to double their gold reserve now. Why are they doing that? What do they know that you don't know? Who's mocking China for doing that? Answer, no one. No one. Could I suggest, please, humbly, that you should call Goldline and find out if gold or silver is right for you? And I'm not talking about paper. I'm talking about actual gold or silver. Find out if it's right for you, and then just take this off your list. Just check it off. Get all their important risk information at 1-866-GOLDLINE, 1-866-GOLDLINE or goldline.com.